How do I feel about the welfare system? You know, a lot of people are just against welfare altogether, right? And that's not me. I think it's a little more complicated than that. It's not as simple as yes or no or anything like that. I will say that the intentions behind the welfare system, although some may argue otherwise, but I think the intentions overall were good. Um, the problem is this, okay? Human beings, like I'll take men for example, we're just naturally just hunter gatherers, right? We need a purpose and a reason to do something. Okay, so if you make it easier for people not to do something, it's far more likely that they're not going to do something, right? Like that's just the way it is. Okay, would I like to see the welfare system reformed and improved? And by that I mean where it's a safety net, but not a lifestyle. Yes, I would, right? But we have to provide suitable solutions to that as well. Okay, so I give you the example of the hunter-gatherer. Okay, the hunter-gatherer goes hunts to get food and bring back for everybody to eat, right? So the equivalent of that today is going out to getting a full-time job and working your ass off for 40 hours a week or even more in many cases, right? Then I believe that a full-time job should provide you with these, you know, with your necessities in life. Okay? That's what I believe. I believe, I'm not saying because you have a full-time job that you should have a mansion. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying because you have a full-time job that you should own a Lexus or a Cadillac. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay, but if you have a full-time job, you should be able to at least get yourself a working vehicle. You should be able to have food on the table for your kids. Okay, and you should be able to pay utilities and rent. That's all I'm saying. It's not. A lot of people can't understand that concept. So if we're gonna do away with welfare, before we even talk about reforming welfare whatsoever, we have to make sure that we can guarantee a living wage for individuals who work a full-time job. That's just point blank period. All right. So now, with that said, because there's things that are tied to this, and people always ignore that, and if you just guarantee being able to get your necessities out of a full-time job, you don't get rid of people's desire to do more and to be entrepreneurs and all that. You don't get rid of that because necessity just means you're getting your necessities. Some people want more. And if they're in the workforce and they have a work ethic and you're building a work ethic of working full time, right? Then that's going to improve the workforce just in general. You're going to create more competition, and thus you're going to have better entrepreneurs. You're going to have better people at the workforce. You're going to have more competition at the workforce. It's that just makes sense. It's almost common sense. Okay. With that said, all right. The welfare system. So I believe in a safety net. I believe that if things happen, especially out of your control, that you shouldn't just end up in the streets, right? Let's say you have a very good job, but that job gets shipped overseas, right? And this is something you've been doing for 10 years. That could be disheartening for somebody, right? And even if you're trying to look for a job, but you can't find a job, and it's just not working out for you, right? That can be disheartening for a lot of people. You lose a job that was paying you $22 an hour. Nothing like that where you live now, so you end up working at Walmart for $7.50. It can have a drag on you. We're talking about a pretty big drag here. Now, if we analyze the situation regarding the welfare system, look, I've seen people that are obviously abusing the system, and you see it a lot. Like if we talk about food stamps for a moment, I see people that clearly do not need a lot of that shit that they're buying it, what I mean, and it's not like I'm not saying I'm outraged about it. It's just a little. it's just not necessary. Like, we need to reform that. Okay, it's one thing to say, let's help these people. It's another thing to say, go buy whatever the hell you want, right? In some of these cases, you're allowed to take out cash. Why? I just don't understand why, if you have food stamps, why you should be able to take out cash. Now, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you're attacking the poor." Look, I'm not attacking the poor, man. Like, that's not what I'm doing at all. It's actually a lot of the people that abuse the system. That's what they want to do. They want to take out cash. Okay, you know how many of these women, okay, are dating these leeches as these men, right? That think they're pimping because they're living off of women, right? And the woman takes out cash so he could go away and buy himself beer. Like, you know what I mean? The shit like that we just, you know what I mean? It's the poor people can be preyed upon, right, by savvy individuals, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, and sometimes the poor people themselves are pretty savvy themselves. Okay. So all I'm saying is, we're giving you money for food. I just don't understand what's the big deal? And this is like where I understand where a lot of conservatives are coming from, right? And I don't agree with them all the way, right? But I kind of understand. Like you're being given something that's money that's not yours to buy yourself food. So why the hell should you be able to take out cash with it? Like, that is not like an outrageous thing for me to say. Okay. Now, I would take it a step further. Now, a lot of people are not going to like this, but it is what it is. I would like I remember when I was a kid, all right, my mother had to go to certain stores here where you could only buy certain things. Bread, and flour, like if to cook stuff, and there was no Twinkies there was no Snicker bars, there was no Coca-Cola, okay, there was none of that, okay, but it had like basic stuff that you could cook, fruits, vegetables, okay, so, and like I don't remember feeling like hated, like I just remember like, hell yeah, we're gonna have some food, that's just. This is coming from someone who grew up with a mother that was on welfare. This is not coming from somebody who's privileged or somebody who doesn't understand where you're coming from. I wasn't rich growing up, right? We have people that are just too liberal. Like, we have people that just don't want to find solutions to problems, right? We're not going to solve these problems, right, if we don't keep it real with people. Like, that's just the way it is. Now, I'm not saying, like, when you see somebody paying with food stamps to point your fingers at them and talk shit to them and call them leeches, and because you don't know that person's personal story. They just started on food stamps. You don't know if they're a veteran that's on food stamps. You don't know their story. You don't know that they have a disability of some kind. You just don't know. It's just, you can't just assume. All right. So that's very important. Yes, there's people that abuse the system, and there's some, like my mother, who utilized it, took advantage of it, but wanted to get out of it as soon as possible. Right? And a lot of it had to do with, I don't want to live off the government. That's the thing she always said. So we should always make sure that the system is built to where we can help people, but then get out of it. Okay? And I understand there's other things we need to do to make sure we improve, and as I talked about, a living wage and stuff like that. Okay? Because we can't be telling people, get the fuck out of welfare, and then they go get a full-time job, and even though they're working 50 hours a week, they're not able to pay the rent. Like, you know what I mean? And then you blame them for working the system. So, and I'm not making excuses for people that work the system. Some of them abuse when they don't even need it, but some of them do need it. Okay, there's a lot of nuance here, Now, one of the reasons you hear me say things like it's not the biggest problem is because we have corporations that get corporate welfare, meaning record-breaking profits, billions of dollars, yet they get government subsidies and they pay zero in corporate tax. Okay, to me that's a much bigger problem than some random girl that's buying her son Twinkies with you know with with food stamps. It's just a bigger problem. You know, it just is. It's just draining our taxpayer money a lot greater. Like there's a lot of people that they just like to attack the poor. Just because they're abusing the welfare system doesn't mean they're not poor. Okay. But here's the thing though. Like, one thing we need to realize, the system, the way it is now, like people that fight against, when I make the argument of a living wage, right? This is all I'm saying, okay? Why is it that Walmart employees work full time for this billion-dollar corporation? 40 hours plus a week, Walmart employees work, okay? And Walmart's 24/7, so like we're talking all types of shifts here, right? Why is it that they work this long, right? And it's gonna come full circle, just so you know where I'm going with this. A lot of their employees, even though they're working a full-time job, depend on benefits in order to make ends meet, right? Now, I forgot the exact number, but I think it's like one out of every $3 or something like that of food stamp money is spent at Walmart. Okay? Of just welfare money in general is spent at Walmart. Like, isn't that ironic, right? A large portion of their profits is coming from money that people are getting off the government, right? Yet at the same time, they don't want to pay their employees a livable wage. The taxpayer has to subsidize for their employees. So not only is Walmart, okay, making profits out of our taxpayer money from, from the back end, meaning people that get welfare money, food stamp money, they spend the money at Walmart, right? Not only are they making money off of that, okay, they also get away with not paying their employees a livable wage and the taxpayer picking up the tab for the rest, right? And then a lot of them probably go to Walmart and spend that money too. Okay, like if you don't see something fucked up with that, that just means the way you framed it in your head and your perspective is just way off, okay? That's what that means, right? So, anyway, those are my thoughts, right? And I'm not against welfare, but, I'm not these guys, just get rid of it. Like, that's not me, all right? Overall, it does a lot of good. It keeps kids off the streets. It keeps kids from being hungry. But it doesn't mean that we should find a way to improve things on the back end and on the front end to make sure we get people out of it. That's what I believe. It's yes, I want to help people. Yes, I want to give them a chance. But at the same time, it should be a safety net. It's maybe a temporary way of life, but not a permanent way of life, and that's very important. And at the very least, it shouldn't be a generational thing. It just shouldn't. There's no reason. Like, I know people whose great grandparents were living in government housing. Now, and their grandkid is living in government housing. I mean, it just becomes a systemic issue, generational issue, and it becomes a known lifestyle. We have to break that cycle. With that said, I know these people get called leeches, they get called all kinds of names, but let's think about this for a moment, okay? Walmart is clearly leeching off of taxpayer money. It's clear. I just explained it to you, okay? Who else is, look, it's not just Walmart, it's the shit they sell. Think of Coca-Cola, for example, right? We are basically making, taxpayers are just funding Coca-Cola. Like, it's insane. Coca-Cola is a product that is bought a lot by people on food stamps, right? I'm not saying it's like a systemic problem. Like that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that soda, just Coca-Cola is the most popular one of all. Soda is just something people buy, to go home and when they eat, and that's what they drink, whatever, right? That's all I'm saying, right? But I'm using Coca-Cola as an example, right? So every time someone with food stamps buys Coca-Cola, this billion-dollar corporation is making money out of it. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that's off of the taxpayer. Yet at the same time, these large corporations avoid corporate taxes. That just doesn't sound right, right? That goes over the head of a lot of progressives, man. It goes over their fucking head. Now you can't say you want to make sure corporations pay their fair share, yet at the same time not notice that. What I would be in favor of is kind of like the WIC system, where we at the very least give people the option to go to these WIC stores to utilize, their food stamps, and we give them necessities there: bread, flour, fruits, vegetables, and stuff like that, right? And price them at a price, right, where they're more affordable than at these big stores, right? Like Walmart, for example, right? Just outlaw Walmart to be able to price match that, or just don't allow them to spend that at Walmart, right? I would be in favor, it's just me, of allowing food stamps to be used at local supermarkets, so you can at the very least help people locally and not this large corporation called Walmart. I would be in favor, as I mentioned, like the WIC store, right, where it's kind of specific on what you could buy there, and even if it's not everything, if you could get most of the stuff there, make it more affordable, so the taxpayer money goes a longer way, rather than making profits for these stupid corporations like Walmart, and I'm just using Coca-Cola as an example, but there's many more of products that you buy in Walmart, right? And I don't think that's unreasonable whatsoever. And if you really think about it, we can get more for the bang for our buck, and we maybe don't need to give them as much money for food stamps, so everybody wins. Now, with that said, a lot of people that need to calm down, though, and let me just put it this way: if you make $50,000 a year, you pay roughly $38 a year towards welfare, right? So a lot of you need to relax, okay? They act like they're single-handedly paying people's shit. It's a lot of you need to relax, okay? Right? That's just the way it is. The ones that are paying most of the welfare, it's and subsidizing, not only people demonize the people on welfare, but they spend the money, and these corporations make huge profits out of it. So it's, I'm just saying, like the money, when you really think about it, that's redirecting the money to the corporations. That's really what's happening here, right? And a lot of these corporations don't pay their employees shit. It's insane. They make billions in profits. Like, oh, we can't afford it. We can't afford to pay more. We're gonna have to raise the prices. Like, fuck them, all right? They're fucking full of shit, all right? Look, Walmart threatening to look, don't allow people on food stamps to spend on Walmart. That's it. That's all you got to do. Okay, Walmart, you're cut off from food stamps. That's it. Unless you pay your employees a livable wage. That's all you got to do, right? And we'll see how quick they fucking raise. They'll be paying their employees $20 an hour. Okay, quick, right? So all I'm saying is, right, is cut off Walmart, spend them on mom and pop places, right? Local supermarkets, stuff like that. That's what I would be in favor of. That's me, okay? Rather than, Walmart, for example. Okay? And I would have only certain products that you could buy, you could spend this money on, right? So that's what I would do, okay? And that's that. Okay, that's the way I see it. Okay, if for those, however, I will just end with this. For those concerned about our government just spending money on stupid shit, like I said, someone who makes $50,000 a year pays $38 a year towards welfare. All the other thousands you paid in taxes went to other shit. The majority of it to the military, right? So maybe you should be against, military intervention and bombing other poor people around the world, okay, and stuff like that, just to feed into our military-industrial complex. So I make this video with nothing but good intentions, and also in saying that even the worst of the worst welfare recipients that are abusing the system cannot be compared to some of the other government ridiculous type of spending that we have. Okay, now it doesn't mean just because one problem's worse doesn't mean we shouldn't address all issues, but there's definitely a lot of fucked up shit going on, and those are videos for another time. Right? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. Keep it clean, please. No name calling, and unless it's you could name calling a corporation is allowed. I'll allow that. All right, peace.